Hello, welcome. I got an excellent question today. Actually, I had 24 hours of nothing because the power was out, and I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to be there for the 4 o'clock Wednesday Zoom meeting. I anticipate being able to be there today for the Thursday at 5 p.m. Zoom meeting, so if you're around, stop by. Okay, I got an excellent question from a student talking about analogous and complementary colors. And one thing that I probably would have said to you if we were meeting in person by now, over and over, I would have said, I probably would have said it, it's been about a week and a half of class. I probably would have said it 6 times by now. And that is this one thing: color and how we experience it and see it and describe it is subjective. Take this weird little color here. This could be described by approximately half of the world as blue. The other half might call it green. People who are a little nerdier or have studied color theory or do something in design or the world of art might say, yeah, that's blue-green. But neither of those 3 people are wrong. It's like a joke, right? 3 people walk into a bar, they all see this color. They all call it something different, and they're all right. They're all correct, right? They're not wrong enough anyway. Everything in color, everything we talk about is like that. It's subjective. It's very vague. It can be interpreted this way, or it could be interpreted that way. A given color could be. Okay. So that gets tricky when you're talking about these color schemes. A lot of times you'll find, why is this? The rational world. We worship at the altar of the rational mind in the Western Eurocentric culture that we live in. That's our big thing. And if it looks scientific or rational, and this is going way back to the Greeks, then we lend it more credence than we might to someone who said, I tuned into the astral plane and I checked my horoscope and I got this. And I believe in that. I believe that rationality is a good thing. I wouldn't choose my stocks that I bought, for example, by consulting with a psychic. But I don't think we should completely throw away the feeling world, right? How you feel about things, because I think that has a lot to do with how we respond to color. Why am I getting off on this? Just to say that when you read about color theory, and you're going to be soon, you will find that people are trying really hard to put their color theory ideas into a rational framework, so it looks sort of scientific. And some things about it are scientific. Certainly the way light and wavelengths behave, it can be proved, right? But a lot of, like, if I said, well, I really love red and I feel something about red, that can't be proved. Not really anyway, or not very well. Not in the sense that you could prove it over and over, right? Okay. If that sounded a little vague, it's because it is a little bit vague. And that's how color theory is. It's a little bit vague. We need some way to talk about these things. They may not be the best. We're always trying to improve. But 2 of the terms that are difficult in this sense are the complementary color scheme and the analogous color scheme. Sometimes you'll see the complementary, I think, called the harmonious. No, maybe I've got that wrong. Scratch that. Pretend you never heard it. Let's just talk about 2 color schemes: complementary and analogous. Basically, I brought my color wheel. Basically, any given color wheel, we have 12 steps. It means there's like a line between differing colors, right? But that line could be made in a completely different spot. I could divide the this yellow, into a further yellow orange, right? And a further yellow green. And then I could divide it into a yellow green if I went this way. Does that make sense? This thing could have, instead of just 12 steps, it could have 36. It could have 3,600, right? A lot of times when you see a color wheel on a computer, it doesn't have these lines in it at all. It's just a band of color, like the rainbow. Like, there's not really a sharp line between one color and the other on the rainbow. The rainbow. That sounded a little authoritative. On a rainbow. When you see a rainbow, you don't necessarily see those lines, right? So like the space where one color becomes the other in the rainbow is kind of vague. Like that's kind of in between green and blue. What does that mean? What is that color, you know? So when people talk about these color schemes, it's because basically a color that is from the opposite is going to have a lot of visual contrast, and you're going to see it at a much further distance, like, right? It's eye-catching, so to speak. And a color where you pick one that's sort of near to, right? If I put these two together, there's not much going on there. And these are said to be kind of more comforting, right? They don't confront you as much. They might, like, some people are kind of sensitive to a lot of contrast like this, and they wouldn't want something like this. Like this would kind of hurt their eyes almost, right? So if you're trying to sell something where you want it to feel like a calming presence, maybe you would pick something analogous, okay? All right, but still I'm not hitting my point. My point is that basically these three colors, everything sort of in this third or so is kind of analogous, right? And everything that's sort of across, even if it's not directly across, is going to be closer to complementary, right? It isn't as simple as just, well, if it's next door to the other color, that's it, you're done. It's analogous. I mean, that's all true. That's totally true. But I would argue that red and orange, even though there's red and orange in between, those are still analogous, right? And I would say that red is somewhat analogous even with violet, right? Even though there's a couple of different colors in between here. But red is not analogous with this color, with this bright green, right? This yellow green, no. And it's not analogous with blue green, and I don't think it's with green, sorry. And I don't think it's analogous with blue green either, right? And I just want to point this out because that's why some of these terms are a little bit hard to use, because they're hard to agree on, right? Like they're hard to agree on. So cool and warm are kind of more useful in a way, although you still get into that same problem. You know, on its own, is this a cool or a warm color? I mean, it has some elements of both things in it. There's definitely some yellow in there, you know. So I guess what I wanted to get this lecture out to you really quickly so that you knew not to get too attached to these terms. They're useful. You'll see them over and over and over, but there's wiggle room with them, okay? So, all right. Now you know complements and analogous colors can be a little bit hard to determine. Basically, if it looks sort of like it came from across the wheel, somewhere on the other half, I would say that's probably a complementary color scheme, but you'll see them like broken down to these like split complements and stuff where I should tell you, I should hold this up and explain it. A split complement is where I come across from green and I take red orange and I take red violet, and that's a split complement, right? Basically, anything that's kind of across the way is going to be complementary, and anything that's sort of nearby is going to be analogous. All right? And if this kind of stuff just gives you like a headache to try to figure out, well, these soft edges, this gray area stuff, then don't worry about it too much. It's not vital. Okay, that's all.